Welcome back to Long Exposure. Today we're going to be talking a little bit, sorry guys, it's really cold out here. Today we're going to be talking about the rule of thirds, okay? Now the rule of thirds is one of those rules where it isn't, you don't always have to follow it, but for the most cases, if you want to have good photographs, you want to follow the rule of thirds, okay? What the rule of thirds is basically you don't want to have your subject in the very center of a photograph, okay? So, for example, even in this video, as you can see, the mountains, top of the mountains are not straight in the center of the photograph, okay? In the mountains here, you have me, you see I don't stand right here in the middle of my camera most of the time. I stand off to the side. I'm not sure if that applies for video as much as photography, but for me, I feel like videos that are standing straight here in the middle are not as interesting, they're not as fun to watch and listen to. Okay, but what it does, if you use the rule of thirds correctly, is what it does is your eye is drawn. Okay, the rule of thirds states, okay, there's three intersections, okay? There's one here, one here, one here, and one down here at the bottom third of the frame, okay? Now, if you're using the rule of thirds, you want to place things along those lines or at the intersections, okay? So, for example, my nose right here is about at the intersection on the top right of that coordinate, okay? Okay, and so your mind is going to follow this scene on that rule of thirds, and it's just something that your brain does, okay? Like if I stand right here in the middle, it's not as interesting, okay? Or if you compose if I compose the shot, right, and I'm just right in the middle of the frame every single time, it's not very interesting, okay? This applies to buildings, it applies to models, it applies to people, it applies to weddings, it applies pretty much any kind of photography that you're using. You want to follow the rule of thirds, okay? Place your subject of interest in one of those intersections, okay? And as always, try to cut out as much background as possible. That way you're not giving distractions in your photographs, okay? So, I mean, if I stand way back here, for example, well, this is a great, lovely scene. Standing way over here in the corner, you're probably looking at the mountains instead of me, okay? You're not focusing on what you're supposed to be focusing on in this video. So keep your focus on that person. Use the rule of thirds to keep your subjects in the correct locations to keep interest, okay? You can make very, 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 very boring things sometimes interesting just by placing them in the right part of the camera, in the frame, okay? So just keep that in mind, and I hope that makes sense, okay? I'm trying to make lines with my arms here. Here, and then here. I might just make an overlay and put it across the screen at this point, but keep your subjects in those sections, okay? Your mind, your eye will follow along those lines, even though you can't see them. It's just how our brains work, and if you want your subject to be interesting, put them there. Don't just frame everything right in the middle, okay? It might be logical to put everything right in the middle of the frame, but it's not nearly as interesting as if you have a better composition by using the rule of thirds. This can also be incorporated into leading lines, which we'll get to in the next video. But until next time, please subscribe. Check out my Amazon store, and in the bottom I've written several books on photography that you might find helpful. And I'll talk to you guys later.